So now I'm going to switch to English. And I'd like to, in a short version, say again, welcome. Thank you for being here in this series of architecture lectures and design lectures. It's a great pleasure to have you here. And I'd like to take a small time to introduce our lecturer today. So I hope you can see my screen. Today we have as a guest Marcelo Rosenbaum. It's a great pleasure to be able and to have this opportunity to introduce him. One of my contemporaries and also Brazilian architect and designer. Marcelo Rosenbaum is professor honoris causa for architecture at the University of Fine Arts in São Paulo. He's one of the most successful Brazilian designers. For more than 20 years, the founder and CEO of the multidisciplinary design and architecture studio Rosenbaum, based in São Paulo, has been designing projects that reflect both the Brazilian way of life and the cultural diversity of the country. In his institute, A Gente Transforma, We Can Change, he developed its own social technology of essential design with the purpose of connecting architecture and design to other tools for social transformation and expansion of impacts, with the aim of bringing new meanings and inclusive processes for architecture and design change. So it's an interesting and different approach to the same didactic and the same methodology that we are aborting here in this series. His work was rewarded with several national and international prizes, such as Tomiotake Asco Nobel in 2017, APCA, so São Paulo Association of Art Critics in 2017, 3 times the award for Best Design by the Brazilian House Museum in 1999, 2016, and 2017, the Arc Daily Building of the Year in 2018, and also in 2018, the RIBA International Prize, together with the Office Aleph Zero for the Children's Village in Caruaná. From 2014 to 2017, Marcelo Rosenbaum was also the curator of the Museum of Modern Art in São Paulo, and his projects have been exhibited in several occasions, also in other museums, including the Brazilian Pavilion at the Venice Architecture Biennale in 2018 also. Other prizes I would skip. I think the most interesting part of his work is it's about to be shown, and it's the process, and it's the doing of the process, and the project it's how it's happening and what stays behind. So Marcelo, thank you for joining us today, and we are looking forward to a presentation.
Hallo, guten Tag für alle. Ich werde beginnen. Okay, it's better in English. Aber danke schön für die Einladung. Es tut mir leid über Andreas, ne, was passiert, und mein compassion about that. And okay, people, thanks for the inviting. And I have one text here that I would like to share, to read for everybody. And I have some images here, and I read this text about our context, our project, and after that we can make a conversation, and the people can ask, the students, everybody, and we can make a conversation. Maybe you can help me also, Marcelo, to translate. I'm sorry about my English, but I think I can, with my hands, I can understand and talk a little bit. Okay, I will show here, share the presentation, some images about the Brazilian country. And we call this lecture here, The Architecture of Silence, Empowerment through Listening, Architecture and Design as a Means to Inclusion and Sustainability in Communities in the Brazilian Semi-Arid. I invite you all to meet Várzea Queimada, a community silenced by the colonialism, by distancing and by forgetfulness. In face of an energy, climate, and ecological collapse we live these days, we have a dystopian horizon. So let's look above the sky, and to do that, I propose us to have a glimpse at Várzea Queimada and then realize how can a Catholic Afro-Indigenous village in the Brazilian semi-arid be in a privileged standing point of the world? How can the reunion of knowledges and how the strengthening of its ancestry in a colonizing process can activate an ecological economic resistance that expresses itself by the permanence on its territory, and then exist against a multidimensional contemporary slavery. Várzea Queimada is located in the heart of the Brazilian semi-arid, where 900 people live in, including 47 deaf-mute, which developed their own sign language. Várzea Queimada is part of Chapada do Araripe, in the state of Piauí, which holds the largest agricultural frontiers in the country. The region is facing a substantial rural migration and the continuous threat of territory expropriation to the monoculture practice. The Craftswomen Association of Várzea Queimada was founded in 2012, based on our meeting with the community. This is Várzea Queimada, né? I show here. This is the community, né? The people, the deaf community that is inside the community from Várzea Queimada. Okay. The Craftswomen Association of Várzea Queimada was founded in 2012, based on our meeting with the community, which resulted in a collection of handmade pieces of carnaúba straw, a Brazilian semi-arid native palm tree. With the recovery of an ancestral typology through an immersion on the community knowledge culture as an expression of what they want to say. The association has arisen from their necessity of organizing themselves and generate income. After a 10-year struggle, a group of 35 women got recognition and was invited to participate in regional, national, and international fairs. The product's entire review goes to the association. Some products, about that. And the architecture emerges in the community as a physical evidence of the collective arrangements through two symbolic buildings. The Toca das Possibilidades, a community center projected and built with cooperation of 21 architects students and the residents of Várzea Queimada, using local material and permaculture techniques. And the Casa Carnaúba. And the Casa Carnaúba, a building projected by Rosenbaum Architecture in cooperation with association from Várzea Queimada, with host the sustainable extraction of the Carnaúba's powder using the fair trade as sales model. Várzea Queimada establishes itself as a creative hub that emerged from the rescue and perpetuation of its ancestral knowledges, boasting the community's power to their articulation as a group, fighting for the collective's rights. This research and execution initiative aims to develop and test the hypothesis that the architecture and the design are tools to face the rural-urban migration issues, which is a form of holding agricultural frontier expansion and the crowd-side impoverishment and by the global warming, which is a climate migration. There are many challenges. There is an immediate need to develop a social, cultural, and ecological cartography reflecting the social environment diversity and the urgency in regulating the land's ownership in order to build new sustainable enterprise devoted to resource generating and environmental protections. A vision of the future built along with community. There is forthcoming need to develop a social, a vision of the future built along with Várzea Queimada's community points towards an implementation and understanding of a community agroforest of organic cotton aiming the textile industry and the creation of the Casa dos Saberes Sertanejos, House of the Backcountry Wisdom, an organic museum to be built in the residence where Mr. João da Cruz, I will show you João da Cruz here, João da Cruz, founder of the community, was born and inspired by his systemic vision, implemented an agrarian reform project on the farm he inherited from his grandfather. The organic museums are ventures of Fundação Casa Grande in partnership with SESC, Commercial Social Service, and they are venues planned to bring about the identity expressions of the people, mixing together different languages and generations of arts language and popular culture. It carries as a main ground premise to establish a bond with the historic knowledge of cultural masters' rights, where the cradle of their traditional resides, their homes. The Fundação Casa Grande, the Cariri Man Memorial, is a non-governmental cultural and philanthropic organization created in 1992, based in Nova Olinda, state of Ceará, at Chapada do Araripe. This picture is the house where born João da Cruz, that we would make the project for the Casa dos Saberes Sertanejos, house of the background wisdom. This is the house. This is indoors. The creation of the Casa dos Saberes Sertanejos, house of the background country wisdom of Várzea Queimada, will be a living archive of the community's cultural heritage. Várzea Queimada will be part of the cultural visitation guide of Chapada do Araripe, which candidacy of the UNESCO's World Heritage Site, nature, traditional, and establishment of an enchanted territory is being carried by Fundação Casa Grande. This initiative was with strengthen the region as a cultural pole and leverage the community tourism model that has been already implemented on the Várzea Queimadas community as a result of a project in partnership with Fundação Casa Grande. Grounded on the concept of architecture design biome, and based on the knowledge and wisdom exchange, and on the ancestry that activates memory. The memory activates the present, bringing visibility to important issues such as the territory's shared occupation, and to feel and think considering the land. Várzea Queimada, a place of orality, which has an independent organic life with the memory that activates the present, place and territory. Life in communion against the extremicity. Thank you. This is, I hope that you could understand my English.
Yes, yes, we could understand very, very good. This was a first project that you did in your career, right? The Várzea Queimada?
No, Várzea Queimada is our second project with the Institute Agente Transforma. We transform, né? The NGO that we built together with my partner, Adriana Benguela, since 10 years ago. And then Várzea Queimada is our first, is the project that we still 10 years work together and are make this relation with architecture and design as a tools of transformation, social transformation. Mm-hmm. Is that. After Várzea Queimada, we work with many other communities, also indigenous communities, quilombolas community. Quilombola, you know what means quilombola? Quilombola are these reminiscent Afro-descendant communities that they live in country Brazil, fugindo, né? Fugindo da escravidão, né?
Yes, escaping
yes, of course, escaping of the slave time. And then they situated in country from Brazil, living with the nature, with the medicine, with the contact with the enchanted knowledges, and that. And also we make other projects with the circular economy, also with the residue, the residue, what means?
Residue.
The trash residue of mussels from the northeast Brazil in Maceió is a big project that we made 3 years ago. It's our last project. As others also.
I think we could take this series with Marcelo Rosenbaum to try to start a dialogue even more than the others. So we would like to invite everybody that has a question or has any questions about other projects to just turn on the microphones, or even just write on the chat, and we would try to start a communication now. And Marcelo, if you can maybe also tell us a little about, I would start just with another question. Tell us a little bit more also about the project in the children's village, in the process of starting the project, just like this one. I think that this would be also very interesting for some of the architects here.
Mm-hmm. Yes, of course. It was a very interesting process that we make co-creation with the children. Is a internato, né? Is a school that the children live there. Is in country Brazil, in Tocantins. 1,200 children live there. It's like a city of children. Mostly inhabitants from this place are children, and the professors and the structure of the farm lived also there, and we was invited to design the new home for these children. And we start that in an immersion and work together with the children in different ages. Every day we stay there for 20 days, for 15 days, and every day we worked with a group of children. In other days come the other group, even to bring a diversity of gender and ages. And the process was to understand how the children, how our client, the people we will live in this place that we are building, we are designing, how they understand the space through the body also. And then and the perception, and we are open to understand, because before we start to make this project, they live it in a place with 40 children together in the same place. The house was 40 children each house. And the direction from this foundation asked us to understand how many children would live in the new building, in each bedrooms. And we asked to the children, 2,200 children, and everybody say they want to live in 6 people together. Since that, we start to think how could be this place with the children to put 6 children in each bedrooms, and make the process also in a research about the architecture, vernacular architecture through the region. Is a very warm region, very hot place with a very typical weather, with in the time of rain is a lot of rain, and when it's warm, mostly the time is really warm. But the ancestral, the vernacular architecture, they use the earth that could be better the climate to build the place. And then we reconnect that and make the solo cimento tiles to build the building with CLT, with the wood, the collage, the structure of wood, and bringing also the culture of the indigenous community that live in the front of this farm. This connection that before this farm, they exist there since 30 years, and they never make this connection between if a relation about the culture or connection through them that. And we start to make that also, to bring the community, the indigenous community in the farm, also with the students to exchange the knowledges, how that the children could connect about this beauty and these magical knowledges and these rich knowledges that we have still alive in Brazil. We have more than 340 different languages. It's very, very complicated, because we think in Brazil, we say that Portuguese is our language, but it's not true. We have other 340 languages still alive in our country that show our diversity about culture and about knowledges. And it's about that we managed to make in the architecture and the design, also how a process not to simply to make a process of colonization, is a decolonization process, how the architecture can use that, it could be a tools to make this decolonization process, to listen to people who live in this conditional. It's a very hard conditional in our country, the situation, the social contradiction, it's a huge question here in our country. I don't know if you could understand. I mixed maybe my thoughts here, but mostly could, the energy could catch.
Together with your hands, we can understand everything.
I hope so.
Another question, maybe, is there, you talked a lot about the projects you're doing and how they involve in themselves, how you take very precise questioning towards the kids, what are the needs, and you go very precisely to each individual participant to get to know that and to build a whole project. I think it's interesting to find out, how do you approach those projects and how do you get to do the projects? Who are you? So how do you acquire a project, and who's paying for that? Because it sounds still, sadly, such an unconventional way of doing work, of doing projects, because it's so personal and it's so on a, like I said, personal detail level. How do you acquire those jobs, and how do you manage to be efficient working like that?
Okay, I think I understand. You means about how can we pay, who paid for this kind of project? Is that?
Yeah, and not out of a how are you going to get paid for that? Like it's a bad idea. More like, how can you manage to translate those very good ideas and that motivation you have? How can you acquire investors for that? Is it the state, or is it private investors? How can you manage to sell that very important product you're working with?
Okay,
the product
this first. Okay, no, of course. This first project that we done for 10 years ago, in Várzea Queimada, that I show now, we designed this project, and I was in contact with a minister here from Brazil. We start to design with this ministry, but when we are finished this project, the minister go out from the ministry, and this project go to sleep. And then I was invited to make one lecture in Piauí, in this state, and I met a CEO for one governmental place from the governmental from this state, and I started to talk with them. And then I showed the project only in this state, Piauí, because with the ministry, we have 3 states together, working together in other states. And we cut the project, and I show for them, and he said, okay, I will help you, I will pay for this project. And then we start to make this project, but in the start of the project to go in the community, the government go out from the project, leave us alone. This is Brazil. Yeah, the people say, and next day they forgot what they said about that, even with money. And then I was alone without money, but I start to talk with the community, with the money students.
Or without the money? Did he give you? Did you have the money, or didn't you have the money?
I didn't have the money anymore,
okay.
And I do the project even that. Like we make the startup for this project. Our office, my partner and I, we assumimos, né? We make this project. And then after that, we start to learn about that. It's like a university. We start to understand how to use that, how to make this relationship with the community, also the continuum, because the project it was only the start moment. And it was very difficult time without money and writing project to sell parts of this project for many others not companies, but parts from the government, institution of the government. And we are learning also how we cannot do that, because in Brazilian, our political is very complicated. We have a very, yes, it's very complicated. And then we understand ways that we didn't want to do the project, but we are going on learning, and the community starts to sell the products also, the artisans product, and then start to become money, income. Okay, and then it's going. The village of the student is a reflection of our work, because after this Várzea Queimada, other NGOs invited us to make the same methodology in projects with then others. And then we start to make a collaboration with NGOs that they have money from other organizations, international organizations, and then we start to work with that. In the village, from this Canoanã, the house of the children, is a foundation of the big bank, the biggest bank from Brazil. It's a huge foundation. They have 64 schools in whole Brazil, in the whole country. Is the second biggest foundation of education in the world. Is a Brazilian one. Then they invited us to design the village, because they heard about our project in the communities. And they thought that we could make something like that in the school. And then it was the process that we sell. We invited, we talk with the foundation to use our methodology to design the building. And they say, okay, and then we start to do that. And it's a huge foundation. Then they pay to us our project, and they pay for the methodology. Also, 2 times they pay for the methodology and to design the building and the construction of that also. Then it's like that. And you are like, this process for us is very new also. It's like a university every day, we are learning in doing also together with the community and listen and
it's a new approach on how we could work, because we don't have to manage only architectural and design critical details, but we also have to concentrate on the same intensity on the community and what the community can bring and what it needs, and what it needs besides room, it needs social structure and what else. And to combine all that, I think that's the biggest challenge. And I think you guys are managing that pretty well. And I get what you're saying, to adjust your work style, to put it like that, and work more unconventional, what not means that it's bad or it's just different. And it's in one way very, very necessary to work like that these days, because if you don't, you just keep following conventional and consume orientated kind of work product. But if you spread out your work and your intentions, and let the people you work for and you build for and you create room for participate and have a word in what you do, I think that's a very healthy way to change, or to not to change, but to develop the kind of the way we do architecture and the way we create space. wherever
Yes.
it is. Yeah, I think that's very impressive.
Is that, Lucas? We are prototyping way to live.
Yeah.
And to do what we know and what we have as tools in our hands, you know.
Yeah.
We live in Brazil. Brazil is our other context from Germany, from Europe. Is really a huge problem about the knowledges, about the colonization. The colonization make a huge problem, no, not problem, but death, and it's still like now, today, you know. And for myself, I become known. I'm architect, design, and I ask to me what I can do with that. What's not for me only anymore, you know? How can I use that tools to make process? Because I become very known in Brazil, more known that I thought that I could be, you know. And then it's not so my office that I can stay here very comfortable and I do with my clients. No, because I become huge, you know, huge. And the possibility of communication also in Brazil is huge. My possibility. And then I put that in the service, né? As a human service, because it's incredible also for us ourselves. Né?
Yeah. It's for each and single one of us. We had the last talk we had before the very tragic incident we just referred to the beginning of the lecture to. We had another lecture, and we also talked with a Latin American country, and I for myself found it very difficult to ask questions which don't sound, I don't know, arrogant in a kind of way from a European perspective, which I would never intend to ask a question like that. But the situations our two societies start from are very different. But I think it's very interesting that on this, just what we talked about a few minutes ago, we have the same common ground. Either your country is in some way other developed than the other one. The problems seem to be the same problems. We don't communicate enough to create the work we do in a way that everybody can participate. That's the same problem in both modern societies in different places of the world. And I think it's the most important thing that we change our jobs and be creative enough not to only to develop and design architecture in a material way, but to design architecture in a way we all can participate in it together. And I think you guys are doing or showing a way of doing that. And in our German very uptight sometimes society, which in most of the times feels very uptight, I think we're far away from that. And it's amazing through this row of lectures that we can see projects like yours that show us there are ways to come together and work together for a more connected and helping each other kind of environment to build common and urban space out of.
Yeah, it's like that. We have this problem of colonization in Brazil with our gold. The gold from Brazil is up in the earth, it's not inside the earth. That is our knowledge, the diversity. This is our gold, you know? And nobody here, nobody listen, looking for that, you know? And the culture, the structure, the colonization is structured in our culture. And we are white people, European, and from everybody, and the Brazil is mixed. But the what mixed in Brazil is not beautiful. It's not wonderful. It's not good. It was aggressive since 500 ago, you know. And nobody understands that. Still now, we make as an architecture or design, thinking like the European style or the European process. But we have this mixed now with Afro-descendant people, with indigenous people, with European people. This is Brazil. But the Black people and the indigenous people, they are invisible still now. They are fighting the Black people, not the indigenous. The indigenous is still invisible. Nobody see. They ask about land, and still now the biggest problem is about place to live. They are the owner of this country. It's like that.
Yeah, and if
the capitalism process.
It hasn't stopped.
Still that, but for only 500 years, they are still here for 30,000 years. And we are here only 500 years and make struggle and make everything broken. The nature, the forest, for example, is a regeneration forest from the indigenous people. They left for us that. This is our treasure, and nobody talk about that, because the forest Amazon is like a patrimony, is like an architecture also. Yeah. We can think about the forest not only like a forest from the climate, yes, of course, but is a present, is a legacy that the indigenous people left for us also,
Yeah.
And also the science and the technology that these people, they have a lot. The way that they built this house, for example, this house, there is a technology, there is a science from proportional to social life and everything, and nobody studied about that. Nobody talk about that. Even that, but in some place, but closed, sometimes in the university or in the in the book, but not with the people that they live there. Not to what they can do with that, what we can do together with them, what we can learn about that against the climate change and other big, huge problems that we have for the next moments in our life. Man.
I can follow you pretty good. I think all that is true, and I think we could go further down that path, and we would end up in criticizing that we still don't teach and learn about our colonization, especially the European society. But let me ask you another question. Despite all that you see about aside all that anger and that blindness, we don't use the tools we possess. Our society as a communicating system, for example, we don't use it the way we could use it, like you show it with your companies in parks. My question is, what is your approach or your motivation to still push forward, and what are your views how other companies, I mean, you don't start it with that big thought that developed during the process, I assume. So is there not a tip or a solution, but as a young student also, I'm kind of looking for for some spark, for some motivation. What is driving you, Marcelo?
I'm sorry, I don't know if I understand everything. Marcelo, could you help me, maybe?
Yes, I'll try to translate a little bit.
Português.
Marcelo, se depois de tanto tempo trabalhando, depois de todos esses projetos e nas diferentes áreas que você trabalhou, qual que é a motivação, qual que é o objetivo que você está seguindo, né? Qual que é, vamos dizer assim, o objetivo da causa, do trabalho que você está fazendo?
Is to understand how we can use the architecture and the design against this process of decolonization, to make a decolonization process, to fight against the climate change, and to awake and to make like a bridge, a bridge. Normally I say that I am a non-architect because I'm not finished my university. I go out from the university in the last year before I finished, and then I am a student. I feel like a student. I'm learning every time, all the time, but I design bridge in the material world. You know, I design bridge that I can bring this exchange. You know, I do bridges. I design bridges, and this is for me. Pardon?
That's a beautiful picture you just painted.
Yes.
Yeah.
In the air, I design and bridges, and this is. This is wonderful to understand how the beauty is, to understand the other perspective of the world and the history that in Brazil, you know only one side of the history. And this history is a very aggressive, is a fight, is a war. We have in Brazil still now a war, you know, against the people. We live in this situation. And for me, is that I would be in this place to understand, to fight together, to learn.
Yeah,
this motivates.
I think one other theme that we just was talking about is I'd like to go back to the theme of the colonialization, or the strategies that you can introduce to the decolonization. I think what we saw in the other lectures that we had is the advantage of having an external point of view, of having someone from outside of this cultural background to look into it, to try to identify some of the advantages. But it can also turn it into a colonization process. So even inside Brazil, when we go to different cultures, we can have colonization process. What is your strategy to try to not get into this colonization process, to get it into a advantage point, to try to see the different good parts in a different cultural background?
Yeah, I don't know if I understand, but you say what I think I understand. But this process is like a prototype, and we are learning every time. Now, for these 2 years now, this moment from the pandemic, that I need to stay at my home, because before I lived in the community all the time. I live in São Paulo now. My house is in São Paulo, but I stay here only for 2 days, and then 15 days I was in the community. Then I come back to São Paulo, stay more 2 days, and come more for other community, not 20 days. But now I'm here for 2 years in my house, 1.5 years, and thinking and understanding and listen the fighting, and I understand other things. I learn other things, like the movement now. The point, the future for me is to bring voice, to open space for the knowledge for these people, to put these people in the way of doing the things, not anymore my project anymore, you know. Yeah. How can we do that? Also, even I know that for the market, for the place, is important to make a sign, a signature of a project, you know, you understand? And how can I manage this process in the middle point of that, you know? How can we bring this indigenous architecture, Afro-descendant design, but show that a presentation this way, and how can we do that? It's clear? You understand? Is that what you ask about, or it's not that?
Yeah, that's exactly the question. I think it's interesting you say to give the voice to the people. Like even if you have the opportunity to design, just try to first to understand how the other would think about this project, and at the end, it's always a joint group, a joint advantage, a joint design, right? I think Velis also has a question. She raised a hand.
Yes, Marcelo.
Hello, Velis.
My question is, we have saw that these projects, they work really well on the countryside, on the inside. Do you see any possibilities to integrate this developing process with cultural knowledge on an urban scale? As you know, we have a lot of programs like Minha Casa Minha Vida that are very poor on architectural qualities. And how do you see that would be possible to integrate this developing process and cultural knowledge on this kind of programs on the cities? Yeah.
This is a huge question. Is a question that we hear every time, and we hear inside us, how we can bring this experience for other places. We do that, but we know that to do this process is continuing. You know, it's very difficult to make one process and then we left. Not that to be direct, not that to work is not. I try to explain, because normally we see many NGOs or projects that the community is my community. It's not this case, but to work together and then make the process continue in the levels that we are, the step by step we are going on. And somehow we understand that Várzea Queimada is a library for the semi-arid. Then we start to make cuts from the region, because we have already a huge problem in the semi-arid from Brazil, because the climate, the climate change will be hot, warmer, and this place will be desert. We have a desertification process in this countryside from Brazil that is already 32% of our country, of the Brazil. The semi-arid is 32% of our country. That's a huge area that brings this process. And then in this process, Várzea Queimada, for example, could be like a place that is a hub to exchange with other communities. But the better thing is Várzea Queimada will be prepared to be a university of ancestrality knowledges. They themselves be a masters, not us. You know, we prepare, we change, we do something. We continue with in this project to transform Várzea Queimada as a university that they can talk with the same language, the same narrative with people in the same situation of them, because it's different. Like a Paulista, a white people, a white man that come from the university, or even that's not the university, but come from the big city, as like a professor, because the people in this countryside, they look of us, you can say like us, and say, oh, you learn, you teach us, what we can do. And I don't believe that. We learn with them things that I didn't know how is to live in this situation, in the deserts, in area that they don't have water. And when they are living in this process, they are learning and they are changing also, and they will be able to explain, to teach other people that are in the situation of they are already for 10 years ago, you know. But in this moment, when they connected in the same situation, they understand very faster, you know. You understand what I mean? Yes? I think it's clear. And this is what I believe and what I hope that the companies, the people, the government is very difficult now in Brazil. We have the worst moment for maybe 400 years ago could be worst, but now, or 300 years ago when the slave came to Brazil, it was also worst, but now it's really bad. Awake for this movement, you know, to transform and to understand that we need come together with everybody. And imagine that there is still today people that live without water in the house. It's incredible to understand or to believe that. It's incredible. Can you imagine that there is people living? And when I say people, it's not far from me because are my family like now, you know, it's not numbers, it's people like me. They open, they go in the kitchen and they don't have water. They have to pick up a basket, plastic basket, and go to caçar, caçar.
To hunt for water.
Hunt water. Still now, right now, they live that. It's incredible. It's not easy to understand that we can live comfortable in our lives and understand that people live still in this situation.
Marcelo, I think one of the strategies that I found very interesting with the office is the empowering of the communities through the skills that they already have in the community. And regarding to that question, Emil Wondle, I hope I spoke your name correctly, has also a question. She stated the same thing in a favela in Rio where she did some work. And the question would be, how can we reactivate those skills, and how can we be aware of them? How can we transport them into let's say, back to the map? How can we find those skills? Because she has Emil has the idea, or she stated that those skills are just getting lost in the community. They're just getting lost in this real world. And how can we reactivate and reinstate those skills in the world?
Ô Marcelo, desculpa, eu me perdi, se puder falar em português.
Como que essas artesãos que estão perdendo as características, que estão perdendo o conhecimento que está sendo desperdiçado, como é que você pode reativar esse conhecimento das comunidades que estão sendo perdidas no contexto, já que não está sendo trazido mais para frente?
I heard that. You answer with a learn that I had with a pajé, with a shaman man. He lives in Acre, in Amazon, near from Peru. And someday he said to me, our knowledge is like our roots from the plant. Our knowledge is our roots. And then the white people come here and pisar step up these plants. They broken the plants, but they didn't pick up the roots. And then if you stop to step and bring water and take care about that, these roots will grow harder, stronger, and beautiful than before. And will grow up in this new world, in this new movement, in this new situation, that what they believe. I love to understand that and to believe that, then you have to take care to step in these knowledges and this situation of relationship, and to take care to listen, to stop to believe that you know everything, that our things and our knowledge is the only one that is the true, that is the right one. This is beautiful. Is a world that opened, is a new world that opened to us, like
it's also an old world that opens
of life. Pardon?
It's also yeah, you said it's a new world, but it's also an old world. It's reconnecting with the old values of the
we live in an old world. It's already, we have to know that.
Yeah, we do.
Everything.
We do. Like you said, within developing out of the colonization for the past 500 years, it is an old world. It's a European colonization old world. It's our values and our values put into another country, into another civilization. And I think it's very important that we reconnect or give other values, the values to the people who used to live there. Like you said, we live in a society where people who came there for 500 years ago lived beside people who lived there for thousands and thousands of years, and they live like in a transparency, coexisting, but not valued, not accepted, not appreciated part of the society. And I think it's, like you said, it's very important that all the people who live there have the same right of a speech and of being heard and of working together, and really the same value. And maybe at this point of time, it's more important that we listen to the people who we pushed back during the colonization, and we take those values, because obviously what we are doing for the past hundreds of years has led us to a climate problem and to all that, and to a very uneven property all over the world. And if we go back to give everybody the space and the knowledge, or give everybody the space to spread their knowledge and to communicate with each other, like you said, what comes out of that is somehow more creative and more effective, because we learn together. It's not one person that comes that teaches all the other persons. It's every person teaches everybody, each other together in a community. That's work, and that's how a common identity grows, and that's how projects and social space in which we all live in together gets more quality and creates a place where you don't have to hunt for water, but you create a solution where everybody can get water, which is an existential ground for life. I think that's basically what we should look for, and what you guys are showing in your attitude and in your approach of work. I think it's very amazing.
Is that? I think so. That's great. Nice. More questions?
I'd like to take the time now also to ask if anybody has any questions left. Also in German, we can translate. Just write it down on the chat, or just turn your mic on. I think we already had some amazing questions and even more interesting and poetical answers from you, Marcelo. And I think it was a very interesting, different platform that we had today, where we could ask more questions and dialogue much more, and interesting part of this series. And one of the things that I find also very interesting in your work, that it doesn't matter the solution, what's the solution going to be, the important is the process of it, that you always think with the community and develop this solution together. It's not going to be one that is above and the other that's underneath. And I think the format that we had today also showed a little bit of that we can just dialogue and participate and ask questions. I'm not seeing any questions in the chat, and I would think that everybody has their questions answered. So I'll take the opportunity again to thank you, Marcelo, for being here, for talking to us and exchanging some ideas, showing projects and showing some of your methodology. It was a great pleasure to talk and exchange these ideas with you. I hope you keep doing this amazing work that you are doing, and keeping us posted in the future coming projects and ideas that you're working on.
It's great, Marcelo and everybody, Sabine, Konrad, Lucas, and everybody. And I hope one day we can design maybe one project together with the community. Who knows?
I love that.
Do something together.
Who knows?
To come here to Brazil, and maybe we need partnership. The word is like that. The new process, the new movement is that, to close and to bring everybody together. And everybody learn.
That's a very good finish line for a very interesting lecture. Yeah, thank you very much, Marcelo, for such an inspirational view into your approach and your team and what you guys doing. And I think we can learn a lot from that because of all of what you just said.
Okay, I thank you for everybody.
Yes.
Bye-bye.
Thank
you.
Thank you.
Auf Wiedersehen.
Tschüss, Marcelo. Thank you.
Tschüss, mach's gut, everybody. Alles.
See you.
Bye.